Okay, back again. This is obviously part two of the what I'm calling the Chromatic Chronicles, and I'm just going to do a little bit of talking about the chromatic harmonica, how it differs from a diatonic harmonica, and then we're going to go and play a couple of scales. Right, so obviously the chromatic harmonica is much, much bigger than a diatonic harmonica. It's a chunky beast, and if you're used to playing diatonic and you stick one of these in your mouth, it feels extremely alien. It's heavy, the holes are big, it's got this weird thing on the side. So it's a different animal, and it's tuned differently as well. But we'll get into that. The harmonica that I've got here is a Hohner Super Chromatica 270 Deluxe. Chromatic harmonicas have stupid names, apparently. So that's the model I'm using, pretty much just because I'm in an abusive relationship with Hohner, and I don't seem to be able to stop buying their products, even though there's probably better products out there. So this is 12-hole chromatic. Chromatics also come in 14 and 16-hole versions. I've gone for a 12-hole because, frankly, this is different enough from a diatonic that I don't want a 16-hole chromatic. So the 14 and 16-hole versions have more at the lower end, I think. Maybe the 16-hole version's got an octave at the lower end and an octave at the high. Whatever. They've got more holes, they've got a bigger range. It's the thing. But I'm going to be working with the 12-hole Hohner Super Chromatica 270 Deluxe. Okay. So visually, obviously, there's a difference in that we've got this metal, don't know what you even call that actually. See, I am learning as I go here. The mouthpiece has got round holes on. And that feels a little bit weird when used to square holes on a diatonic. But you get used to it quite quickly, to be honest. It does take a lot more air to play. Now, this is what I think is very interesting, because when I messed about with this earlier last year, immediately I realised that if you're going to get a good tone out of it, you've really got to get your breathing technique down. It does take a lot more air. It's going to take a lot of time to work out the best way to sort of get the air out, I think. But it's good because when you pick up a diatonic harmonica after playing one of these, then this just feels like... Oops, that didn't even... Too cold. Anyway, point being, it feels very strange to swap between them until you get ready. Okay, what is this slide for? What happens with the slide, without going into the mechanics of how it all works, because honestly I find that a little bit confusing as well. What the slide does is, on any given hole, slide out, you get one note. Slide in, you get a note a semitone higher. Which, fine. I know you can, I have read that you can bend on these things, but I don't think it can go down to another note. But again, I'm still learning, so who knows? I'm telling you what I know at the minute, as a kind of brief introduction. So the slide raises it by a semitone. This is a key of C, by the way. The overwhelming, I don't know what the figure is, something daft, like 90% of chromatic harmonicas you find will be in the key of C. There's G's and B flats and D's knocking around, I think. But unlike the diatonic, where you just pick up loads of different keys, theoretically, well, actually, you can play in all 12 keys on the one harmonica in the key of C, because the slide gives you access to all the chromatic notes that wouldn't be there otherwise, the sharps and flats and whatnot. Pretty cool. Something when I just played there, something else that's insane about these things is that if I blow hole 4 and then I blow hole 5, no, that's wrong. If I blow hole 4 and then hole 5, you get the same note. So there's simply a repeated note between hole 4 and hole 5, and I guess it's also between hole 7 and hole 8, or hole 8 and hole 9. Or maybe not. Oh, well, that's weird. It must be there somewhere. That's 4. Well, whatever. See, this, I'm not editing this. I wouldn't normally put this into a normal video when I start getting confused, but that's the point of this thing, right? So, there's repeated. When you get up to the octave, it repeats. Very strange. Don't know why. It's a peculiarity of the tuning. It's probably one of those things that you just need to accept and get on with your life to stop things getting too complicated. Right. Where's my little cheat sheet gone? Okay, inside here, talking a little bit about sort of care and maintenance now. There's an awful lot more reeds than there are on a diatonic. Very briefly, each of the reeds also has what's called a valve, which is a little bit of material that sits on top of the reed, and it helps isolate air when you're playing one of the other reeds or something. The upshot of that is that these are much more fiddly than diatonic harmonicas. They require a little bit more babying. So you want to be extra careful to have a clean mouth, no bits of food knocking around, because there's much more that can go wrong inside the harmonica from sort of foreign bodies coming from you. So you really want to ideally brush your teeth, but swill out with water at least before you start playing. I would recommend maybe a more experienced chromatic player can feedback and give me some info on that. But there you go. Right. So be very careful with food. They, as you just saw when I played my C diatonic here earlier, that 2 blow, because it's freezing in here, this harmonica is very cold. I can feel it's cold in my hand, and that 2 blow, just the cat's in the corner tearing up a cardboard box. That reed didn't want to vibrate because it's too cold. It doesn't know what's going on. And that applies very much to the chromatic as well. You want these suckers to be warm before you start playing them. I've even seen players have little heated pads that they keep them on. People stick them under their elbows. Whatever. If it's cold, you're likely to get buzzes and strange things, as I understand it. So it does want to be warm before you start playing it with your clean mouth. And I suppose you just want to make a special effort to keep it clean. It's probably worth rubbing it down, keep it in its box, because it is more finicky than a diatonic. There's more bits in it, which leads to more trouble. Okay, I have been blathering on for an awfully long time, and we haven't got to playing some scales, so I'm going to do 2 scales. I'm going to do the major scale and the blues scale. Now, the very cool thing about the way these harmonicas are tuned is that it's just the same as in between hole 4 and hole 7 on your diatonic. So I'll grab my C diatonic here and try and warm it up a bit. The major scale on a diatonic . 4 blow, 5 draw, 5 blow, 5 draw, 6 blow, 6 draw, 7 draw, 7 blow. That pattern, if I start from hole 1 on my chromatic harmonica, that exact same pattern gives me the major scale. So I'll put the tab for that down there, and that's the major scale, and you obviously, this is well worth practicing that. Now what also happens is that unlike on the diatonic harmonica where all the octaves have different tunings, which drives people insane, On the Chromatic, our 4-hole... Oh, that's why it repeats. That's why you get the extra repetition of that hole. I've just worked it out. So we got 4 holes to an octave. And then if we jump up to 5 through 5 through 8, you'll get another one. You'll get the same pattern of notes an octave higher, he says, hopefully. And then it repeats. That's where I get the repeated note again. So yeah. And that's your major scale, which if you already play diatonic, you'll already know, which is great. So at least we've got that bit of familiarity between the two. The blues scale is a little bit more tricky. It's the same as the blues scale in 3rd position on holes 4 through whatever it is on the diatonic harmonica. So, but to play this scale, we need to use the button. So let me see if I can do this. Nope. Now what's very weird about that is that you need to press the button in and change the direction of your breath at the same time when you're coming back down. Oh my god. Very unusual when you're not used to it. But I'll put the tab down there. It's 4 draw, 2 draw, 3 blow, 3 blow with the slide in, 3 draw, 4 blow, 5 draw. Very unusual. Okay, so I've belathered on a lot there. I hope this is interesting enough. This is pretty much what this is going to be. Well, actually, it's going to be a lot more playing and me messing about as this goes on. But I wanted to do a quick introduction to the harmonica itself. So hopefully that was useful. The next video, I am going to attempt to play the first song in Barrett's little... his first study song for Chromatic. It's called No Sweat. And I'm hoping that I'm not going to embarrass myself too badly, but that's what this is all about. So thanks for watching for 13 minutes, and we'll probably play a little bit more in the next video. Cheers.